Hey friends, Jessica here with Creators Couture with my second Barbie-inspired lettering, and this one is so fast and fun, and essentially we're just going to use one Photoshop brush. So let's get into it. I'll show you my tips and tricks. So here is the final result. So on a lot of the Barbie marketing materials, you'll see that bright blue background and a lot of different pinks, but a lot of that hot pink like you see here. So this one I thought it would be fun to just put that blue background, have a nice bold pink lettering on it. In this case, we're going to do a monogram. And with a little iridescence we got behind it. So I'm going to show you which brushes that I used. So the main brush, I'm using the same brush for both of the iridescence and the pink. And let's pop over here. So it's from my iridescent and holographic brush collection. And I'm actually using a color palette from my original wet paint studio, which I put that out so long ago. And I'm using a color palette from my the iridescent and pearl texture palette part of it. So let's get into it. All right, so let's just zoom out a little bit here. And we'll just do one side by side. So this is the little monogram that I did. I made an L because the L it's the easiest and it always looks nice. So let's keep it easy for me. Um, and yeah, so what I did was I grabbed the wet iridescent brush number, I guess it's one. Uh, Let me just check here. Yeah, it's brush number one. So if I was going to just paint this out of the box, I preload it with some color, but of course, if you guys have used my wet brushes before, you know that if you change the brush size, the color will always drop out and you'll have to resample it. So this is that brush with some iridescent, and it's just got these nice, because I used a brush tip that has like the C curve, you've got these gorgeous things happening inside the brush stroke. So that was really fun. So to start off with, I sampled some pink and just added, like the other one, a little bit of bevel and emboss, a little bit of drop shadow to just give it that extra oomph. But I'm going to go over here to my palettes. So this was the palette that I used on my last video. I think I actually sampled, let's go down here to my brush. I sampled from this area here, but I also made some other palettes here that I could sample from. And I think, let's just look at this one here. So to sample, you option click to load that color up into your brush. I'll have down below the foundation tutorial if you are, oh, I'm grabbing the wrong brush here. If you're new to this technique. So this is the brush that I have here. And you can see those, nice little kind of things that are happening within that brush stroke that give it a nice kind of beveled effect. Let's go back here. I'm going to option click to load this colored area in. And every time that you paint it, it's going to look different depending on where you sample on the image. So I'm happy with that. Looks pretty good. I could go over here to this palette and see and just try something a little bit different. This one I'm going to have some like lighter streaks of pink because of that pink spots I, sampled there, and also where I sampled it, because you can see where you sample it, it'll look different each time. So let's go back. Let's cut that. That looks good enough. We're going to go with that. So actually I sampled from this one, which I'll have. You can make your own palettes. I show you on the foundation tutorial, or you can, if you're a member, you can download all these, all of the tools that I'm using. So this is good enough. We're happy. Here you can see me drawing the L without the layer style, but if I draw it next to it here, when I have a little bit of bevel and emboss, you can see that adds just a little bit of oomph and a little bit of drop shadow. So it's cool. So actually I'm going to undo that. And I am going to take my brush smoothing on up here. So I'll just draw this side by side and see how it goes. So whatever. If it's not as pretty as my sample, I'm not going to stress here, but whatever. All right, so there we go. And also, if you have a little bit of an end here where you can see that divot, you can kind of like, I'll paint a little bit, just kind of go like that. And then that usually can fix it up. But also, one little trick you can do is once you get the shape that you like, if you don't like how the tip looks just perfectly, click here to this, I don't know, alpha lock or whatever, lock transparent. And then you can kind of, once you have the shape here, you can kind of go brush over it until you're happy with how it looks in either direction. So that's something that I've done on some of my tips that have maybe the tip like this, but you can see kind of where some of the colors haven't mixed on the end. Then I'll go over it and make sure that it's just how I like it. So, and then I'll unlock it. So that is the base. That's really pretty much it. We've just got a little bevel, a little emboss. I always like to put my bevel on lighten and linear burn. You can pause this and check those out. Here's the drop shadow. But of course, it'll all depend on what, size of your document. I'm working with like 2000 by 2000 by 4000 here, whatever. That's the main thing. And then the next thing we're going to add is this little iridescence. Let's turn this off below. And that's so pretty. And I think that that adds a really like fun kind of 80s sort of Barbie vibe as well. And especially how it kind of plays with the blue background and everything. So I think that's really fun. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So I actually am using the exact same, let's hear, exact same brush, but I'm sampling from a different color palette. So where is my brush here? Okay, this is the brush. So this is with the layer style, with no different layer style, and I'll show you the palette that I use. But here you can see those yummy distinctions in that's happening inside that brush, and it's so pretty. But that's how that brush looks normal. If I change the blend mode to hard light, then that's how we get that gorgeous luminescence that we're going to put behind the lettering to add that little bit of oomph. So that's the secret here. And the palette is this is from the Wet Paint Studio, and it's this one right here that I sampled and remixed from some iridescent images. So I'm just going to option click to load that palette into my brush. And here we can see we've got, and it's got that little bit of like, yellowy and stuff, but that's going to look so cool when you have the right blend mode applied. So when I put the blend mode on hard light, then it just adds like a really cool sort of effect. But we're going to actually have that below our letter. So we'll put it down here, just like on the one we have here. So let's just zoom out just a scotch. And then I just draw it like this, and we can kind of see those cool things happening. Oh, let me turn my brush smoothing up. But you really get that. Okay, that's not perfect, but just get those really cool sort of effects here and those little highlights of color, and I think that's quite fun. So you can have fun, and you can use the same technique, and it doesn't have to be lettering. You can make some cool, abstract brushstroke backgrounds. And then the last piece de resistance is just adding those little sparkle highlights. This is also from my iridescent brush collection, so just to have a little fun, add a little sparkle. So that's it. Couple brush strokes, playing with the blend modes a little bit, and we've got this cool fun monogram. So you could use this in your items for sale or client work, whatever. But I think that maybe from now until Christmas that we'll have a lot of Barbie inspired things. So from what it's from the marketing campaign, that's definitely looking like it's on tap. If you have any questions, just let me know down below in the comments, or feel free to give me suggestions on what kind of things you would like to do next. I have like one more Barbie inspired tutorial, and then I've got some other things in the works. So stay tuned. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next tutorial.